Hello there. This is relationship coach Renata Paris from GetRelationshipsRight.com. Today I want to talk about something we've been talking about on my Facebook page, the Get Relationships Right Facebook page, which is therapy and the effectiveness of therapy versus the effectiveness of coaching. Now, how I want to start this conversation is I want to say I do not speak for all coaches. So coaching, although there are standards in education, every coach does coaching differently. So how I do coaching is different from other coaches. So I can't talk about coaching in general. I can talk about how I coach in particular. So let's talk about therapy and coaching a little bit. First of all, therapy is great. I'll tell you a little story. When I was in college, and I come from kind of a difficult childhood, so it took me some years to recover. And when I was in college, I worked with a therapist all 4 years. I was getting my BA, and that was a incredibly powerful experience for me. It was as if I got a healthy dad, because the therapist spent an hour once a week going for walks with me and talking about my life and helping me cope with college and the things that were happening in my life at the time. So I do think therapy is very powerful and very positive when it's used correctly. As consumers, we have to be responsible for the things we consume, and therapy is no different than any other service. So here are places where therapy is appropriate. When you feel that you just need somebody to talk to, therapy is great, because if you talk to your friends, they give you advice. They don't exactly understand. Their emotions get involved. If you talk to your family, the same thing. But if you talk to a therapist, they can listen, they can support you, and as you're hearing yourself talk, you can work through some things and understand some things about yourself and whatever situation you're dealing with. Therapy is great if you've had a dysfunctional childhood and you need to be reparented, because it's a long-term process where you get to have a healthy person listening to you, giving you feedback, listening to your emotions, so you can heal a dysfunctional childhood by being in therapy over long term. But here's what therapy is not great for. When you are not looking to be listened to, but you are looking to make changes in your life, therapy does not seem to be effective. Therapy will give you insights into what drives your behavior, but therapy seldom solves behavior issues. Now, I can't say it never does, because there are some incredible therapists that are incredible change agents. But in general, therapy will help you. Here's a good distinction. Therapy will help you cope with what is, where coaching, and again, I'm speaking about myself. I, as a coach, will help my clients reframe what is, or perhaps change what is. I would never help a client cope with what is, because coping is not a coaching concept. You can always change things, either by changing your perspective, changing your circumstances, asking what you want, renegotiating a situation. I would never give you strategies for coping. But that is what therapy does. And there are situations in life where coping could be an option, although I wouldn't say it's a great option. Therapy is also not great for couples. So for a couple of reasons, couples generally go into therapy as a last resort. So when everything else has failed and they're at the end, they're kind of at the end of the road and they're thinking about breaking up, couples will go into therapy. You should never wait that long in a relationship to get help. Generally, a couple should get help in their relationship when they start to not feel great and they can't seem to get to a better feeling place by themselves. That's a good time to get help. You never want to wait until you're ready to break up and then get therapy. Also, often couples go into therapy with only one person dragging the person in unwillingly. which again makes therapy not very useful. And then the third thing is that statistically, therapy only succeeds in only about 20% of couples. So that is not a great success rate. The thing about therapy is that people kind of put their lives, their relationships in the hands of the therapist, and they say, well, you're the expert, you tell us what to do. And that is not a good way to approach any professional. You need to come to the table and say what you want and ask the expert or the professional to help you get there. And often what I hear is that couples or individuals will go into therapy, and I will ask them, in fact, I just had a conversation with somebody on Facebook about this, that you could see below the last Friday's video. I asked her, she said she's been to therapy for 5 sessions. I said, is it helping you? And she said, I don't know. And the thing is, if you have seen a professional for 5 sessions and you can't tell whether it's helping you or not, why do you keep going back? Because if you saw an accountant 5 times and your finances were still not in order, would you go back? Or if you saw a lawyer who was writing a contract for you, and 5 meetings later there was still no contract, would you go back? I mean, therapy is no different. If you don't see results, you may not see complete results, but if you don't feel better, it's not working for you. And it could be you. But in general, it's the skills of the professional as well, because professionals who are skilled can help you make a difference, or they will tell you, I can't help you. It's one or the other. I mean, I know when people come and work with me as a coach, they feel better after the very first session. They don't feel completely better. Their problems don't disappear, and I don't just tell them what they want to hear. It's not that kind of feel better. They feel better from the inside. Something shifts in the process of coaching. So, let's see. So now I've spent a lot of time talking about therapy. So let me talk about coaching a little bit. And here's what I want to say. I think relationship coaching is still a fairly new profession, and that people don't quite understand, they don't quite understand what it is. And so what I will say is, relationship coaching, think of it as an alternative to therapy. So maybe there are 2 tracks in which you can get help. Whether you are single or you just can't find the right partner, or whether you're dating and you're not sure where your relationship is going, or perhaps you keep dating different people but the relationship keeps ending up in the same place, or maybe you're in a relationship and it's kind of stuck in the one phase and you'd like it to move forward, or perhaps you're in a long-term relationship and the fire between the two of you is starting to die down, or maybe you've been angry at each other, or you're in a relationship and you're thinking it's going to end, or perhaps you are dealing with a breakup and you just can't get over the person that you've broken up with. Think of coaching as an alternative to therapy. So there are 2 tracks. So then what you want to think about is, would you rather sit across from someone who's compassionate and loving in therapy and just tell them how you feel, and they will nod their head and they will give you some tips for how to cope, and that's great and it's wonderful if that's what you need, is just to be listened to as you grieve or as you process? Is that what you want? Or are you the kind of person who is ready to take some action and have things be different in your life? Are you ready to move forward to whatever it is that you truly want, to whatever your heart desires? So those are your 2 choices. So therapy is not the only choice, nor is, and I think maybe this is the most important message that I want to deliver in this video, just having things as they are in your relationship life is not your only choice. I think people really believe, for the most part, that whatever they're experiencing in their relationship life is what they're stuck with, that nothing can change. There's just nothing to be done about that. And that's simply not true, because our relationships are an expression of what's happening inside of us, and we can always change what's happening inside of us. Now, you may not think so. You may not think that the things inside of you can be changed or rearranged, or the way that you feel or the way that you think or the things that you believe can be changed, but they can. If you work with a professional who's skilled enough, they certainly can, which means that your relationships how you do relationships, who you meet, or how you interact with your partner, or the thoughts you think can all shift and change, and you can have a different experience. So really, I guess you have three choices. You have doing nothing and living life as it is, and if that works for you, great. Therapy, where you can have support and somebody to listen to you and somebody to help you cope with what is. Or the third choice, which is a choice I always choose and a choice my clients choose, which is change. Go for what you want. Work with a professional such as myself who can help you get to what you want. So that is what I think about therapy and coaching. And that concludes this video. This is Renata Parise from GetRelationshipsRight.com.